Good morning. I've come down to Froward Point again to do a bit of astrophotography this time. I've tried doing astrophotography blogs in the past, but with limited success really. They've always been a bit of a nightmare to do, simply because it's dark, it's very hard to vlog, and you can't get much kind of B-roll just because you can't see anything. I was down here a few days ago though, doing a vlog during the day, and I was shooting from this exact same location, same actual position down here. So I've got some B-roll that I can chuck in from that day, so you kind of know that the area, you can actually see it. Obviously it's pitch black at the moment, and you're not going to be able to see anything. Just in the distance behind me is there's a rock out to sea called the Mu stone. And the Milky Way just about lines up. I'm a little bit too late, to be honest. If I was here, say, an hour and a half earlier, the Milky Way probably would have been a bit to the left, or kind of hitting right bang on with the rock. So it's a bit to the right. So I got the timings a tad wrong, but we're still going to get some quite good shots. I might take some of the day mark at the top as well on the way back, which is a place I've visited a few times to get some shots, and I've got 2 vlogs actually of it on my channel up there, but it all depends kind of how this goes really. Yeah, I've taken a few test shots in the back of the camera. They're coming out quite nicely. I quite like them. I'm just going to go through some kind of basic settings, how to do astrophotography. So main thing weather wise is you need clear skies, which kind of goes without saying, but you also need the kind of lack of moon, or if there is a tiny bit of the moon, you want it to be kind of behind where you're shooting, or if there's a bit of the moon, you want it to kind of be set from the scene. So tonight we're round about a new moon. I think a new moon is actually tomorrow, and also it's set anyway, so I don't think you'd be able to see it even if there was a bit of the moon. So that's ideal. The sky's really clear, not a single cloud in it. You know, really beautiful skies tonight. You can really see kind of the stars with your own eyes. You can see the Milky Way band with your own eyes, or I could do until I blinded myself with these lights. So it's perfect conditions tonight. It's quite calm down here as well. There's not much wind. So looking at the camera, what settings are we going for? Now, you need a few things to do astrophotography. You need a lens that can go to quite a wide aperture. f4's okay. Anything higher than f4, say 5.6, is doable, but any higher than that's probably going to be a bit too slow really. But the main thing you need is a wide angle lens. Anything under, I mean, people do take astrophotography of 50mm lenses and stuff like that, and you can get good results. But to get the best kind of the brightest shots with the less noise of the Milky Way, you need to be looking down around about 25mm and under really. I'm shooting with a f2.8 14mm lens. It doesn't have to be expensive lens. This is a Samyang 14mm lens, and it's really good for astrophotography, this lens, because it's wide angle. It's got a massive field of view, that 14mm, and also because of that 2.8 aperture, it's going to let a lot of light in. Also, it's a really good lens. If you look at the specs on it, it's got a thing what's called low chroma, which means in the corners of the image, it's going to be just as bright, and also it's going to try and capture just a sharp image with kind of less kind of effects or bad effects as it will in the center, which is what we really want for astrophotography. We want to have a kind of clean image of the Milky Way from the center to the outside. The other really important thing with it is to have a wide angle lens, because that's going to give you a longer shutter speed. In astrophotography that matters. Basically, the least or your less zoom you are into the image, or your less kind of longer focal length you're at, the longer you're going to be able to take those images. There's a simple way of working it out. It's called the 500 rule, and all you do is you take 500 or your focal length, I can't remember which way it is around, and you divide it by 500. I'll put it up in the vlog the exact way of doing it, but with this 14mm lens I can roughly shoot around about 30 seconds, which will give me sharp stars that aren't blowing, because the sky's always moving. If you take a really long shot of the stars, they're going to be moving as well, and you're going to, rather than being a round point, they're going to start blurring to like an oval type shape. So you've got a kind of limit to what you can shoot at. With a 14mm really wide angle lens, you can shoot about 30 seconds. A 24mm lens is going to be roughly around 18 or 20 seconds off the top of my head. And then when you start getting into lenses that are in the 50mm range, you're kind of shooting really around about 15 to 12 seconds. So it does make a massive impact kind of what lens you have on there. You can compensate with ISO, but the difference is if you're on a 24mm lens, you probably want to shoot at 6400. And if you're on a f14 and you can get that 30 seconds, you can get away with shooting at an ISO of 3200. That's the basic settings. The other thing is the focus. Don't just focus to infinity. It's really hard to focus for astro stuff because it's so dark. You normally can't see anything on live view. Some cameras are a bit better than others and you can. But you're just going to have to do a bit of trial and error. You're going to have to focus a lot, especially when you're on a lens that's f2.8. It's really going to struggle nailing that focus. And you want to be focusing to those stars. The good thing about a wide angle lens as well, it's going to have a really long or really good hyperfocal range, which means you don't have to get the focus bang on, and it should kind of still focus through the rest of the scene. But obviously the stars are really far away, and you're going to have to get it roughly accurate to get them in sharp focus. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to get on with some more shots, and I'm going to try and adjust the focus because at the moment it's off, and I'm just going to have to keep on adjusting it with trial and error until it gets to that perfect point. So yeah, that's kind of roughly how you shoot astrophotography. My settings for tonight are going to be ranging from an ISO of 3200 to an ISO of 6400. Going to be shooting at f2.8, maybe a few at f4 if I'm worried about the focus issues, and that's always going to be on a shutter speed of 30 seconds. I'm going to be maximizing that shutter speed that I can get with this lens to get as much light in as I can. Yeah, so I'll get on with it, take some more pictures, and I'll catch up with you a bit later.
Right, it's a bit random. I'm in a car. I've come to do the editing of the astrophotography shoot from the other day. It's actually about a week ago I was there. I'm actually in Iceland at the moment. I've got the iconic mountain behind me here, the Vesterhorn, which I got to last night. Was covered in mist, raining all day. Still covered in mist. The sky's cleared, but I'm waiting. Hopefully that's going to clear up a bit later. Get a nice image. But we're going to go through the astro stuff from Froward Point the other night. Now, I did actually get down there 2 days after this vlog with a friend just to do some general photography, and we did go up to the day mark and get some shots there. I tried getting some ones down at Froward Point because I like the image, but I wanted something where I was a bit closer zoomed into the rock, a bit more of a longer focal length on it. I was going to try something a bit different down there, but it was too cloudy really, it didn't really work. But there's enough kind of clear space or clear sky up at the day mark for us to get some nice shots there. So some of the two images I was going through, one does have a bit of cloud in it, and in the vlog I said it's really clear skies, and that's because that shot was taken 2 days later. So I'm going to start up the screen record software now. Every single time I use this software, I can't get it to sync properly. I've redone some of the frame rate settings in it. Hopefully it's going to work now. So just start recording. Going to make my laptop go incredibly noisy because it always does. Right. Right, I always use Photoshop for my editing. I'm not a massive fan of Lightroom, to be honest. I use it for its catalogue, but all my editing is done in Adobe Camera Raw and Photoshop. So this is kind of going to be how I edit it in that. I've got all the images here. Some of them I've already edited, but this is going to be looking at the images first, how they came out of the camera and how I'd edit them. So this is the image we had of Froward Point. this is how it came out in the camera. It's quite a natural image. It's quite nice. There's a bit of detail in the Milky Way. You can see it all. You can see the rock. You can kind of see the scene, obviously with the trees in the corner there. First thing that I'll probably do with it is, with any kind of astro stuff, is always add a bit of clarity. In fact, for some reason I've got the clarity up already. Put it back to how it is. So always add a bit of clarity. Clarity can make images look unnatural. But a picture of a long exposure of the Milky Way is kind of starting off as a natural image anyway, because it's a long exposure. It's something you can't see with your eyes. So you're not really cheating too much, but I always bump up the clarity quite a lot. Now that gives you quite a nice natural image. You could literally just stay with that if you wanted. Give you a nice kind of general image to use. You don't have to do too much of it. But I tend to edit a bit more from that. So what I'll probably do next is I'll probably look at increasing the contrast. The contrast is going to make those lights in the Milky Way stand out more than the back, the dark sky behind it. Too much contrast is going to make it look unnatural, but it does make the Milky Way look quite epic. But you're starting to ruin the foreground now, so I'll probably bring that back to around about here. Now highlights. Normally in images you're trying to reduce the highlights, but as the stars are kind of highlights as such, you want to be increasing them to make them brighter. So by adding a bit of highlights, it is starting to bring them up. The downside is it also makes the sky around it a bit darker, a bit lighter as well. So it's kind of how you want to do it. This is your main control really of how natural you want your image to look, whether you just want it to be the stars coming through or the Milky Way. Sorry, the stars or some of the kind of background behind it. I'll probably add a bit. I won't go over the top. Probably about there. It's going to kind of look about nice, quite nice. Shadows totally depend on the scene. Remember that it's a long exposure, so it's going to have lots of noise. So you don't really want to be pushing the shadows too much. So probably going to go somewhere around about there. Whites again, they're going to be for the stars. So you can boost the whites. That's going to make the Milky Way stand out a lot more. And blacks. Now black should help you control the dark bits around the Milky Way, so you can bring it down to darken the scene overall but keeping the Milky Way strong, or you can bring it up to give you a bit more of a natural image. I'll probably keep the blacks around about neutral. Now saturation, the one good thing that a camera can capture the Milky Way which your eyesight can't is the colours in it. So you probably want to add a bit of saturation, not over the top. Unfortunately with this image we've got noise or light pollution in the background, in the foreground, sorry, which was from quite a few boats parked out. So adding too much saturation is going to make them look quite bad. There's a few other things as well. Obviously we can do general enable the profile on the lens, which is going to take out all the kind of vignetting in the corners. You probably want to go a bit over the top with the vignette removing, just to make sure those corners are light, and obviously adjust with some of the distortion settings as well to get that bang on. White balance. A lot of people tend to shoot white balance at daylight when they're shooting the Milky Way. Obviously what you're seeing is stars. Our light comes from our sun, which is a star. So if you shoot your shots at daylight setting, you should get a natural white balance. I generally tend to leave it and just correct it in post. So it's just a matter of playing around really what you want. You can go warmer, or you can obviously cool it down with a more of a blue feel to it. I quite like that how it is now with the blue feel to it, to be honest. I have already edited this one, and I've saved it as a preset already. So if I go back to how I had it before, this is kind of what I had it edited before when I did look at it a few days ago. Quite a nice strong Milky Way band going through it. It's not 100% finalised, this image. I might adjust the white balance, and some of the highs are a bit too high in it. I might bring the exposure down slightly. But that's generally that image there. That's kind of what we're going for. There's not much point in doing noise reduction on Milky Way images. You can to a degree, but you start kind of taking away too much of the stars when you do it. Unfortunately, it's one of those things, they're always going to be noisy, the images, unless you're doing things like star trails, which is going to use averaging to get rid of the noise. Yeah, so that's that one. Now, one's of the day mark. So we basically, the day mark is a 25-meter tower that was erected in 1880 something, or 1860 something, for a navigational aid, so the boats could see the entrance to the estuary, the Dartmouth estuary. It's a really, really cool tower. I've shot it before, done star trails. I must admit, when I was on my own, it is a bit spooky. I didn't shoot it. I went back 2 days later with a mate and got some really nice images, actually. There's quite a lot of cloud in the sky. I'll flash up a few of these edited images. So you can have a look at them. But even the ones with a bit of cloud in the sky, I think they come out quite nicely, actually. They add a bit to it. But we'll look at one down here first. If I can find it. Which I thought I'd go, there you go. Now this is an extreme case, so here you can obviously see, check I've got enough space left. Yeah. This is a very, very dark image. It's unedited. With the marvels of modern day cameras, we can do a lot to it. Now I put a light in the day mark here. It's quite cool. You can see the beams coming up through, and the rest of the scene is quite dark. For some reason, we have loads of light in the foreground here. I think it's because the light pollution from the neighbouring town, kind of Dartmouth and Kingsway, were lighting up the foreground. So we had quite a lot of nice light on the day mark. We didn't have to light paint it or anything, or really light paint the ground. So this one here, I'll probably start by just trying to bring the exposure up on it, just because it is very dark. So I'll bring that up to something around there. You can really see it start coming to life now. Shadows, again, same, bring the shadows up quite a lot. Somewhere around there. Contrast, again, bit of contrast, although it's starting to make it look a bit too white in the background there, so maybe, yeah, just the contrast, maybe a bit of negative contrast in this one. Bit of whites, again, blacks, adjust to your taste. Already got the clarity up on this one, you can tell lots of clarity. Again, that makes a big difference to the image, as you can see they're toggling it on and off. Already got a bit of saturation on this one. Probably about it. With this one here, what I tend to do is, like, in fact they're already on there, isn't taking them off. I've really already edited these, and I kind of have adjusted them since. If I take the filters off, what I've done is I've taken a graduated filter from the top down, with it getting darker, which you can see the settings here. So I've got the exposure low, the contrast up, again, clarity on top of that, and loads on the shadows to try and get rid of the dark corners, and that is making that darker, but the Milky Way still stand out. And the bottom one is doing the opposite. It's trying to add, hang on a second. Yeah, the bottom one is kind of, well, it's kind of doing the same. It's making the bottom of the picture darker. I think it just looks nice, nicer with it being dark. It removes some of the noise in the bottom of the image as well. By pushing that bottom bit, it's quite grainy and noisy. So that's basically that image. It's kind of very quick run through of that one. I've already saved this one before, so if I load up the preset here, we can see this is the image I kind of ended up with, which is a really nice scene. What I'd probably do on this when I got it into Photoshop as well is I would probably use a bit of dodging just to maybe increase the brightness of that that light coming up through the top of the day mark. So yeah, that's basically it. That's the images that I've edited. I'll just fire up some of the images from there now, so you can see kind of the scene we got. Yeah, really nice, cool place. Astrophotography is always something I enjoy, but you do need the good conditions for it. Star trails I find are generally easier to work with. I tend to do them probably a bit more. And astrophotography in general is something that you have to be quite unsocial with. As I said before, it's quite tiring and yeah, not the easiest thing to do in the world. But yeah, hope you found it useful, and I hope you found the run through quite interesting. As you can see, there's a massive difference you can get between an unedited and an edited shot. Milky Way shots are always going to be edited. Don't think that you're cheating by editing them, because they're nearly always going to be edited to get the best out of them. Any major shot you see online, a lot of Milky Way shots as well tend to be composites. I don't like doing composites if I can get away with it. It's always nicer to have a proper scene. All these images have been single shots. They're not bracketed or anything like that, and they're single exposures. So by being creative, using lights, torches, and getting the settings right, you can get a decent image just with one shot. So yeah, hope you found it interesting. The next vlogs for the next couple of weeks at least, there might be a few local ones thrown in between, maybe on a Wednesday or something, but for the next few weeks it will be a lot of vlogs from Iceland going up. Just on a 10-day kind of road trip, halfway through at the moment, and yeah, really cool place so far. Got some really good images. Hopefully this place will clear up and I'll get one here as well. Going to be making my way all the way around the island, so if you're interested, catch up that. There'll be a series to kind of watch from that, and it's a bit of a budget holiday as well, so if you fancy doing it and you want to do it on a shoestring, kind of probably do a vlog of kind of how I've done it, how much it's cost me to do it, which isn't going to work out too bad, to be honest, considering it's Iceland. So yeah, I'll catch up with you in the next one. Hope you found it interesting, and I'll see you in the future.